Hello, welcome. My name is Andrew Rodenberg. So today we're just going to do kind of a slow floor practice on our mat. If you want to use blankets and blocks, that's up to you. We're just going to start off nice and tall here today. So let the shoulders kind of fall down the back. Let the bottom set of ribs lift up off the hips just a little bit. So the tendency for a lot of people when they set up is to push the belly forward and tighten up the lower back. We want to think about the abdominal wall creating the length. It's going to help to keep the shoulders over the hips. It's going to help us to keep the ears over the shoulders and keep the chest open so you have plenty of room to breathe into. So nice and tall to the spine. Drop the shoulders. If you want to close the eyes or find a spot out in front of you to gaze at, that's perfect here today. And we're just breathing. So the majority of movement when we breathe happens to the ribs below the armpits and the bottom set of ribs. You may notice movement to your chest and shoulders, clavicle, or even into the upper back, and that's perfect here. Just noticing that for yourself. You need to add subtle movements while you're here, that's fine, and we just want to notice tightness or openness as you breathe. It feels like it's an effort to take a breath as deep as you can, and we don't want to exaggerate every breath, but just one nice exaggerated breath here at a time. We don't want to force anything with our inhales and exhales, but just maintaining a rhythm that feels comfortable for you. Finding your natural breath. So someday the exhale may lengthen out to twice as long as the inhale, but for now just finding whatever rhythm works for you, whatever's appropriate. Noticing where your focus is, if that's to the breath or if the mind's kind of racing or wandering along. As best you can, maintaining focus to your breath. When we're focused on the breath, we tend to back off when we need to, help us to find appropriate times to push ourselves. Plenty of oxygen to the body means we tend to stay more focused, we don't cramp up or fatigue as quickly. We can create that habit of focus. As we move into the hips, thighs, and lower back, we're going to start off with our 6 movements of the spine. We'll just kind of keep that our theme as we move through. So when you're ready, you can open the eyes, whatever feels appropriate. If you want to block, we'll have it handy off to the left side of the body. That's where we'll start. And on the inhale, just reaching up out of the hips. Keep your shoulders down. On the exhale, take the left hand to the floor or block while reaching to the side. So don't shrug the shoulder or twist it forward, but just try to maintain openness. If you want to gaze up, that's an option. Hand over the shoulder, even down to the hip if you feel like that's going to be better for your body here today. We're just trying to find some length down the side into the obliques. Gentle lift of the rib cage. We want to make sure we're not pushing the left ribs down into your pelvis, but we want to make sure we're lifting and lengthening. Keeping the chest open will help you to find that. Let the abs squeeze here a little bit as we push up, shoulders down the back. Go ahead and switch your legs out if that's comfortable. You can have the opposite foot on top or the opposite leg out in front, whatever that means for you when you sit up nice and tall. Shoulders drop if you're moving your block. We'll put it on the right side of the body. And on the inhale, we'll reach the arms up, shoulders away from the ears. Exhaling the hand down. Inhale up and over to your right so you can walk the fingers out. You can bend at the elbow. Once again, we don't want to shrug the shoulder up, but try to maintain openness across the chest. That'll keep the back of the shoulder engaged here a little bit. And then wherever's comfortable for your arm. Finding movement to the head and neck if you need it. There are lots of options here as we go through. Just try not to push your right ribs down to the pelvis, but when to maintain some length. And if you need to stay up further, to maintain that length and stay up a little further. Abs and obliques, once again, the bottom set of ribs all kind of work together. So on your exhale, it all squeezes, and we use that to come all the way up, shoulders down the back. Nice and tall. Moving into our twist, we'll find our hands over to the right knee. So in our twist, our primary focus is maintaining length and keeping the chest open. So lengthen here as you bring your hands to your right knee, and on the exhale, just a gentle twist around to your right. And you can gaze over the shoulder or close the eyes. We just don't want to tense the lower back up, but it should be the abs and the obliques maintaining length here. We'll take about 4 breaths. If you close the eyes, you'll tend to make your twist more relaxed. If you gaze around as far as you can, you'll tend to make your twist more intense. Head comes around last, tall to center. Hands to the opposite knee. And the same thing here. Lift the ribs. Make sure your chest stays open. Otherwise, we'll be collapsing down as we move into our twist. And we want to open that space up. Lift the ribs, shoulders down. And when you're ready on the exhale, you can find your gentle twist. Gazing over the shoulder or closing the eyes. And once again, we're not tensing the lower back here. Use the abs and the obliques to maintain length. Same breath. So head comes around last, tall on the inhale. Keep the shoulders down away from the ears. Next movement of the spine we'll make is a forward fold. We'll just do this from a seated position. Hands for support. If you need to move your legs out a little further away from the pelvis, you can always bring your legs out a little bit more. Whatever feels appropriate for you. We're going to lift the ribs. And on the exhale, forward to the chest. Hands for support. And just rounding over the legs. If you keep your elbows in, it's going to tend to round your spine a little more and stretch the back. If you reach way out in front to the arms, it'll tend to find a more neutral spine and bring you down over the legs. That'll push the stretch further into the hips and thighs. One's not more right than the other, whatever feels appropriate. If you want to bring forearms to the blocks, that's fine. Regardless of what variation you choose, once you've come forward, you can add a little bit of movement of the shoulders from side to side. You can bring the chest over opposing thighs if you have that space available to you. Just try not to bring tension to your lower back. Wherever you end up, just find stillness here for a little bit, and we'll take about 3 breaths. Breathing to resistance. So when we're folded forward, a little bit of resistance to our breath, but we want to make sure we maintain that deep inhale. Hands for support when you're ready, and we'll come all the way back up to center. For our back bend, we're just going to do this from a seated position, just a little lift to the chest. Hands to the floor out behind you and let some of that weight push back into the palms. So when we move into a back bend, we want to try not to just push the belly forward. Let some of the weight come back into the hands, maybe fingertips here. We're not shrugging or pushing the shoulders forward, but keep the chest open. And then lift the chest up. Lift the ribs away from the pelvis. You can gaze up here. If you want to keep the chin tucked, that's perfectly fine. If you want to gaze all the way up at the ceiling, that's an option. Gentle movements to the head and neck, but keep it fairly subtle here. If you feel like you need to relax the head and neck back further, that's up to you. 2 breaths. Pushing into your fingertips. Shrugging the shoulders to lift the head back up as you bring the shoulders over the hips, and we're right back where we started. Just a few breaths here. So that's our twisting, our side to side, and our front to back movement. When you're ready, we'll do the same thing from hands and knees in a table. So from your tabletop, you may want to use blankets here. Maybe on top of the hands, to rest your head on for thread the needle. If you'd like a blanket behind the hands, that's a spot for the shoulders to rest on for thread the needle. If you'd like the knees a little wider, that's always an option. So when we thread the needle, we're going to start by taking our left shoulder towards the floor. We don't want to try to push the left shoulder all the way over to the right side of the body. We're not trying to contort, we're trying to twist the spine. So we can bring the left shoulder down to the midline, or out in front of the left knee, whatever feels most appropriate. Right hand in front of your right knee, strong shoulder. On the inhale, left hand to the sky. And then through the exhale, we'll thread the needle. That's just left behind the right. So let the left shoulder come down to the floor as little or as much as is comfortable. We don't want the hips coming forward. We'd rather push the hips back further if you need to bring the shoulder down. Resting the head and neck. Some of us will want to bring the right arm to the sky, maybe to the lower back, maybe to the left hip or thigh. Whatever's appropriate for you. The more relaxed you stay here, the more you tend to stretch into neck and shoulders. The more active you are, the more you tend to move into the upper back. Gentle movements of the hips if you need that here today. And we're just going to breathe. Closing the eyes if you'd like. Maintaining movement into your rib cage as you inhale and exhale. Maintaining your breath. So if you chose to reach the arm up, on the exhale, bring the hand down in front of the face. Inhaling up to center. Any movements from here. Gentle cat-cows, whatever you need across the back. We're going to bring the left hand under the shoulder. So strong left shoulder here in the beginning. Once again, we have the hips and knees lined up. We're going to inhale the right arm to the sky. And then as you exhale, bring the right arm behind the left so the right shoulder will come down to the floor. Your blanket, just whatever you need here. Any movement to the hips. Keeping in mind, we'd rather have the hips sinking back than pushing forward. That's a lot of pressure on the back, but when the hips move back, help to lengthen the spine a little bit even. Hand to the floor. Arm to the sky, lower back. Right hip or thigh on this side if you feel like that's appropriate. The more relaxed you are, the more you'll tend to move into the neck and shoulders. More active, you'll tend to move into the upper back and lower back. So whatever feels appropriate for you, we're just going to take the same breaths here. You can just close the eyes. You can gaze around as much as you'd like. Jaws relaxed. Lots of breath into the diaphragm and the chest. If you have the arm up, we'll go ahead and exhale it down, just whatever's appropriate, pressing into the floor as we come up to center. And we'll just go straight into our cat-cow from there. So on the inhale, belly drops, the chest moves forward. Keep your neck long. And on the exhale, lift up to the bottom set of ribs as you gently push the palms into the floor. If you choose to tuck the chin a little bit, that's up to you. Inhaling. You can let the weight push back towards the hips a little bit. This will reduce some compression on the spine. Exhaling. Same thing here. We can add a little more stretch into the lower back by letting the hips move back towards the heels. Just let your inhales and exhales initiate your breath. Just breathing at your pace, and that may be a little faster or slower than I'm moving, and that's fine. Just finding a natural rhythm for you here today. And then find a neutral spine. So that's our twisting to thread the needle. Cat-cows are front to back movement. And then we'll move into our side to side, our lateral stretch. So to find our lateral stretch, just bring your hands planted to the floor. Shoulders down the back, point your middle finger forward. And we're going to take the right leg and extend it to the side. So when you extend your leg over to the side, look back and make sure the hip is still over the knee. Shoulders down the back. Pull the ribs up off the hips, keep the shoulders away from your ear, and on an exhale, we're just going to make a comma or C shape with the spine to your right. Right ear towards the right shoulder. Breathing. If you need to exaggerate a few breaths here, that's perfect. Maybe find a perfect tilt into your pelvis so you can feel length across the lower back here as you breathe. Continuing to push the chest away from the floor, we'll come back to center. We'll just move this into a little bit of a thigh stretch. We're going to take our right leg behind the left and drop the knees down kind of close together. You can make the space between your heels. So you have our right leg behind the left. From here, you can come down to the forearms and pause. A little bit of rocking of the hips from side to side. If you have space available in the body, your hips may come back further, and you can even sit all the way down to the block. If you want to come down to the floor, just whatever's appropriate here for your cow face legs. Breathing. The further up you are, the more you're going to be able to rock the hips from side to side. The further down the hips go, the more you're going to be able to move the shoulders from side to side. Just find one that's appropriate. Relaxing the head and neck if you'd like, and we'll take about 5 breaths. Try to keep the jaw relaxed and try to maintain your breath. You can use hands for any kind of support you need wherever you need to around the body. We're just going to come back up to center, come back up to the palms. We'll bring the legs out to the sides. A little bit of rocking of the hips from side to side or whatever you need. When it's appropriate, go ahead and take your left leg out to the left. So right hip and knee line up. Leg is out to the side. So we don't want to shrug here, but make sure you're pushing the chest away from the floor, just keeping the shoulders safe, the upper back open. And on the exhale, a comma or C shape of the spine to your left to your left shoulder if you'd like. Any movements to the hips, the head and neck. You can find just very subtle cat-cow tilts of the pelvis until you feel like your lower back is nice and long here. Breathing, noticing movement to the ribs below the armpits and the bottom set of ribs as you inhale and exhale. Right back to center on the in-breath. I'm going to take the left leg and we're going to cross it behind and drop the knees once again. Make a little bit of space between the heels if that's appropriate. Forearms to the floor. You may stay here once again. Just like the other side, maybe you're rocking the hips from side to side. If you're letting the hips fall back a little further, you can sit down on a block. Maybe your hips come down between the heels or to a heel. And we'll pause here. The further back your hips go, the more the shoulders will be freed up to kind of move across the lower back. The further up you are, the more the hips are freed up to move from side to side. Whatever feels appropriate, we're going to take the same deep, even breaths here. Jaws relaxed, maintaining movement of the ribs below the armpits and the bottom set of ribs. When you finish your breaths, when you're ready, hands for as little or as much support as you need, any adjusting you need to do. We're just coming right back up to center. And any kind of cat-cows into the lower back, inhaling as you draw the chest forward. Exhaling as you lift up to the bottom set of ribs. You can even tuck the chin here a little bit. A brief child's pose. Feet together, knees wide. Maybe you like to have the feet and knees wide, or you like to have the legs side by side or together. It doesn't matter, whatever's comfortable here. We can start to let the hips fall back a little bit. If you need to bring a block under the hips, that's perfect. Just wherever's comfortable, even if you need to keep the toes curled under, that'll open into the arches and the toes here a little bit. 4 breaths. Right back up when you're ready. We're going to step the right foot forward. Continue to move into the hips and thighs here a little bit. Lower back. So toes curled under, foot flat on the left leg, whatever you want. And don't shrug here, but try to keep the shoulders down and back. If you need to use tinted fingers here or blocks, that's perfectly fine. Wherever you end up, just breathing. Rocking the hips from side to side. Gazing over the right shoulder to draw the left hip forward and down if you'd like. We'll just take a few breaths here. You have an option whether you want to relax the legs and the lower back as much as is comfortable. You have an option if you'd like to kind of push down into the front foot. Pull the ribs away from the hips if you need to make this a little more active. Your breath. So if you need more space for the body, you can always bring the right foot out further or the left hand out to the left side of the mat. We're just going to move into a twist from here. Planting into your left hand, maybe it's under the shoulder or out in front of your left knee. Push down into your right foot and we'll pull the ribs up off the hips to find length. Right hand to the thigh if you'd like on the inhale. You can stay right here. If you feel like it's appropriate, you can reach the right arm up. Maybe you have the hand to the lower back. You can gaze around here if you'd like. Some of us may be able to reach the hand back for the foot. That's just an option here. And we'll take about 4 more breaths. Breathing on the exhale, we're just going to take the right hand down. Plant the right hand to the floor. Inside edge of the foot will be more accessible for some of us, and we aren't too concerned what goes on with the back leg here. If it kind of shifts off to the side, that's fine. Right hand plant, strong right shoulder. Left hand can come up to the hip. If you feel comfortable bringing the left hand to the sky, that's an option. We just want to open the chest, pull the shoulders down the back. Right foot pushes down. Abs and obliques lift the ribs up off the hips. Open the chest and breathe. Any movements of the head and neck you may need. Full length of the exhale to drop the hand. Keep the foot pushing down. Inhale, lunge, exhale, half split, and we'll just let the hips shift back. So you may just bring the hip over the knee and pause here, and your leg may be a little straighter than mine, your knee may be a little more bent than mine. If you need to adjust, you can always push the heel further forward. You can slide the knee back a little further. Chest towards the thigh and any kind of rocking gently of the hips from side to side. A little more IT band would be hands on the outside edge of the right foot. That's an option here. We'll take about 4 breaths from this position. Toes pushing out or heels pushing out. Maybe you're kind of moving back and forth here. On an inhale, we're going to start to come up. If you need a little bit of movement here, you can bring the hand to the thigh and open the shoulder up a little bit. If you'd rather just rock your hips from side to side for a moment, that's fine. Remember, hands wherever you want them. And we're just slowly starting to work the body forward again. So if you need to bring the foot back or whatever's appropriate here for you, shifting the knee back over the ankle. And we're going to switch the legs out. So lift the knee. You can bring the leg back. So you can find a table here or a high plank, whatever feels comfortable for your lower back. Take about 3 breaths. And when you're ready, we're just going to take the left foot up between the hands. So you can drop the right knee down, toes curled under, a foot flat, whatever feels comfortable. Any kind of rocking of the hips from side to side. If you'd like to gaze over the left shoulder to draw the right hip forward and down, that's an option. Lots of breath. The variations you did on the other side. If you want to push more into the foot and think about maintaining length, if you want to allow everything to kind of relax here, these are your options for your practice, your body. but keeping the shoulders strong here. So we're not shrugging, but strong right shoulder. If you need more space for the body, step the left foot out to the left a little further for your twist. That's an option. Right hand can come further out to the right if you need it. So abs and obliques create your length. We'll all push down into the left foot, left hand to the thigh if you'd like. Left hand to the hip or thigh if you'd like. The shoulder, if you're reaching the arm up or bicep by there, that's your option. And just take the same breaths. Try not to shrug the shoulder, but we want the shoulder down and back to maintain strength across the shoulder blade. Abs and obliques, lifting the ribs. Ribs below the armpits, moving with the breath. When you're ready on the exhale, you can slowly begin to move the hand down. Push into your foot. Block will go to the inside or outside edge of the foot with your left hand, just whatever you did on the other side. Abs and obliques lift the ribs, and we'll start to open from here. If you need to hand to the hip or the thigh, that's an option, the lower back. If you're reaching the arm up or bringing the bicep by the ear. Whatever variation you find on the other side will probably be just as appropriate here on this side. And we're just breathing. You can gaze up if you'd like. You can gaze down if you need to. Don't let the shoulder start to shrug, but we want to think about strong left shoulder down and back. Jaws relax and look for that movement with your breath. Ribs above the armpits, bottom set of ribs expanding and contracting. Take the full length of your exhale when you're ready to slowly begin to drop the hand. Inhale, lunge. Exhale, shift the hips back. Once again, foot flatter, toes curled under. If you need to walk the hands in, you can leave a bend to the knee, just whatever feels appropriate. If you're adjusting here a little bit, that's always an option. Rocking the hips from side to side. If you'd like to tuck the chin or round down over the leg, that's your option. We're just going to take 4 breaths in stillness wherever you decide to end up here. Lift up here a little bit. You can bring the hands in. Just any adjustments. On the other side, we gave a little bit of an option for a twist from here. And if you feel like that's appropriate, you can find the same thing. So whatever's right for your body. Any shifting of the hips. We can start to come forward. If you need to draw the heel back a little bit before you shift forward, that's always an option as well. Wherever you end up, nice long spine. And then we'll exhale into a high plank. Knees gently to the floor. Drop the hips back towards the heels. Let the chest come back down over the thighs, and we'll pause in a child's pose once again. Take about 4 breaths here. Pigeon, we're going to start with the left knee forward. We'll just slide the right knee back a little bit. So more or less, we want to keep the right leg parallel with the right side of your mat. The left knee can point out to the left a little bit, and how much you bring the heel out is entirely up to you. We don't want to end up out on the outside edge of the hip because we tried to get that leg out so far. We're going to try to keep the hip points even across the floor. You can wiggle your foot out as little or as much as you'd like, just as long as you aren't rolling out. But we want to think about evenness across the lower back. Nice and tall on the inhale. And on the exhale, just begin to come down over the thigh. You can bring forearms to the floor here. If you're using blocks or anything like that, they're going to go underneath of your left hip and thigh, maybe the glute, maybe the pelvic floor. You can roll up a blanket or a pile of blankets underneath of you, whatever support you feel like you need. This may be as far as you go when you breathe here. If you want to bring the forehead to the backs of the hands, that's an option. Relax your lower back and take about 5 breaths. Try to keep the jaw relaxed. Whenever you're ready, you can use hands for support to slowly begin to press back up to center. Hands for support. So the more you stay relaxed here, the more compression you feel to the body. Maybe you need to keep the hands forward a little more. The further in you walk the hands, the more the obliques and the abs need to start squeezing up. The glutes need to squeeze to protect the lower back. You can even press your leg down into the floor to activate. And the hands can come in as close to the hips as you feel comfortable. Lift the chest and gaze up if you'd like. If you need to gaze forward or tuck the chin, that's an option. We haven't opened up a whole lot into the quadriceps and hip flexors, but if you would like to here today, you can curl the toes under or lift the foot. If you're reaching the right hand back for your heel toes or the ankle, that's an option, and we'll take about 4 breaths. When you're ready to release the foot, we don't want it to thump down. We want to place the foot down with as much control as you can. 2 options that come out. You can roll off to the left side of the body, or if you want to lift the bottom set of ribs as you push into your palms, you can float the left leg back. Any kind of movements from here once again. What's kind of nice sometimes is a down dog after your pigeon, maybe even lifting the straight leg up so that the left leg here is nice and straight and has a little bit of pressure on it. That's the thigh we were externally rotating. And we'll do the same thing on the opposite side. However's comfortable. Right knee towards your right wrist. And from here, let the hips start to settle down to the floor. If you need blankets, blocks, bolsters, just kind of go up underneath the hip and thigh. Left leg more or less parallel with the left side of the mat. Right heel comes out from underneath of the pelvis as little or as much as feels comfortable here for you. And just remember, you don't want to be sitting on the outside edge of the hip when we fold down. And that's where blankets, blocks, bolsters, just anything to support the hip and thigh here as you come forward to keep the back safe, the hip safe. So when you're ready, forearms to the floor if you'd like as we come down over the thigh. You can breathe here for a moment. If you want to bring the chest down further, you can bring the forehead to the backs of the hands. Whatever you found on the other side, probably appropriate here as well. We'll take the same deep, even breath. Relax the lower back, hips and thighs together, head, neck, and jaw. Breath, the movement into the ribs below the armpits and the bottom set of ribs. And you're just breathing at your pace. When you're ready, you can use hands for support to kind of push up. Maybe you keep the hands way out in front here. That's perfect. Any kind of movement you need to make. If you're bringing the hands in further, the glutes, the abs, you need to hug up against the skeleton, maybe a gentle lift of the pelvic floor. Once again, this is just an option. You can stay right here if you need to. If you want to lift up through the left foot, you can reach the left hand back for heel toes of the ankle. Breathe in here. Once again, we don't want to drop the foot or thump the foot down, but we want to place it down to the floor. As best you can, bringing the foot down. You can roll to the right if you'd like, just rolling off to the right side of the body and bringing the body up. If you want to push into the palms, shoulders down the back, lift your ribs, and we float the right leg back to meet the left. Down dog if you'd like. So it's the right leg that we had forward, so to kind of neutralize into that hip and thigh, we can take the left leg up. Once again, whatever feels appropriate for your body here. Child's pose when you're ready. Whatever movement feels comfortable or appropriate from here. Hands for support. You can even kind of push up to the heels a little bit. Maybe this is as far as you go. You may need the toes curled under. You may need a block underneath of your hips, and that's fine. However is comfortable. Maybe your hands to the thighs, or once again on either sides of the hips. Wherever you end up, keep the chest open and take a few breaths here. We're just going to come down to the back, however is comfortable for your body. Hands to the thighs, chin into the chest, and we'll roll down to the spine. Side to side, front to back, whatever spinal rocking you need to find here. And just briefly in moving through, we're just going to find a twist, just a little gentle twist. Then a back bend to neutralize everything. Squeeze the muscles up against the spine. Feet to the floor. Shoulder blades flat. So T position with the arms. We're just going to find the feet wide. This will help to open up into the quadriceps and hip flexors just a little bit. It'll extend the lower back just a little bit. So with the feet wide to the mat, we're just going to let the knees on the exhale float over to your left side. And we're going to gaze over the right fingertips. So knees left, gaze right. You can adjust the head and neck as much as you need to. If you feel like you need to straighten one leg or both and kind of bring it out to the hand, that's always an option here as well. Your breath. I want to think about keeping the lower back safe. So if you need to push the sacrum towards the floor on the inhale or exhale, whatever feels comfortable for you, find that breath. Adjust the feet as much as you would like. And on the exhale, we're going to let the knees float over to the right side. We're going to take the gaze off to the left side of the body. Same thing here. If you like the variation of straightening one leg or both, that's an option. Maybe you're just relaxing here and breathing. That's perfect as well. Jaw stays relaxed. Inhale back up. Knees towards the chest, just a little bit of movement here across the thighs. Feet flat to the floor. We'll move into our bridge. Arms to the sides. We want the feet to come down to a natural spot. We don't want to do a whole lot of pulling the heels in. What ends up happening is the knees start off in an awkward position, and when we lift, we're just pushing the knees further out over the toes, or we're bellying up to try to cover that distance and splaying the legs open. So let the feet fall down to a natural spot wherever they want to go, and just let the arms come down to the sides. And if your feet are further away from your hips than mine, that's perfect. That's just where they end up. Shoulder blades flat. Glutes hug up against the skeleton. Abs and obliques create a corset around the center. Gentle lift of the pelvic floor, and on the inhale, lift the thighs and the front of the pelvis up. The tendency is to open the knees, and we want to think about thighs coming towards one another. You can imagine you had a loaf of bread between the legs. You don't want to squish it, but you don't want to drop it either. Hands can push down. You can push into the forearms. You can bend the elbows and push into the triceps. You can bring the hands under the body and roll up onto the forearms. You can reach out for the feet, although you may not cover that distance, and that's fine. We'll just take some breaths here. Slow on the exhale, we want to start dropping the body down. You move the arms and shoulders around if you need to. We don't want the lower back to tense up. We want to keep the pressure into the abs. So when you come down, think about the tailbone is going to hit the floor at the same time as your back or last. If you want to tuck a little bit and slide the vertebrae down one at a time, that'll help to keep the abdominal wall engaged on the way through. Once you're down, knees into the chest, any movements you need across the legs or lower back. Legs long across the floor. Arms to the sides, palms up. We're just going to move into our final relaxation or corpse pose here. Breathing, so close your eyes. Relax your jaw. You can rock the head from side to side. Heels in, toes out, so we have a little bit of external rotation through the upper thigh, and palms up to the sky with the shoulder blades flat to keep the chest open. Breathing. Draw focus to the ribs below the armpits and the bottom set of ribs. Try to follow the movement of your breath. The process of building focus involves finding a focal point, attempting to maintain focus to that point. We complete the process when we get distracted and make a deliberate effort, a deliberate decision to draw focus back to the breath again, or whatever focal point you chose. So those distractions are the perfect opportunity to reinforce our habit of focus. Take advantage of those opportunities. The majority of movement happens to the ribs below the armpits and the bottom set of ribs. There's also a lift and fall to the chest and shoulders as we breathe. Very subtle movements into the clavicle and upper back as we inhale and exhale. Maybe finding some of that movement for yourself here as you breathe on your back. If it's more comfortable to roll off to your side, that's fine. If it's more comfortable for you to lie on your belly, that's always an option as well. Focusing to your breath. Breathing into the body. This ties the mind, the body, and the breath together. Wherever you are, take about 5 more breaths. At the bottom of your last breath, just noticing the body. Take your inhale. Noticing if your mind has become distracted. If it has, pull focus back to your breath. Find movement to the ribs, whatever that means for you. We'll take about 4 or 5 more breaths. Once again, noticing where your focus is gone. If that's still to your breath or whatever focal point you chose. Maintain that focus as you begin to wiggle fingers and toes, wrists and ankles. As you begin to draw knees towards the chest, you can add any kind of side-to-side rocking here, front to back, whatever movements feel appropriate for you. Traditionally, we roll over to the right side of the body to lift the heart above the organs and the brain, but whatever you need to do here, if you'd like, you can take your right arm up and roll off to the side so you're lying on your arm. A few breaths. And then whatever movements you need to make, of course. Hands for support. We'll come all the way back up to center. Shoulders over the hips. Ears over the shoulders once again. Sitting up nice and tall. Noticing any kind of subtle changes to the body, the breath of the mind at the end of your practice. Those are subtle changes that you created, subtle changes you can return to whenever you need to. It's your pace, your breath, especially when your practice ends. As you move through your day, as you continue through your week, honor to lighten you, as the same lighten me. Namaste. Thank you for joining me. Have a good day, have a good week. Thank you much.